Hello and welcome to another Fishing Planet video. This is the Tuesday night video and it's the second in the 4th of July series this year 2021, and this is the fish tag coordinates number 2, and it's the one with the spotted bass, the white crappie and the black crappie. Now, I've done all of this using the jig winner, and you'll see the variations in tackle as we go along. Starting at Lone Star Lake, and I'm going to show you 3 spots here where you can catch the historic spotted bass. So there's number 1. So we're on the bridge, and it's my favourite bass spot, and it's over in that corner as where we're pointing at the moment. The second one is just straight down the line. So as probably anyone will know, because Lone Star is where you start, this side of the bridge on the left hand side where we just caught the spotted bass, that's where you normally catch spotted bass, and on the right as we look at the moment is where you normally catch the pickerel. Down the middle you can catch either, and down the middle is a particularly good spot for the historic bass as well. So this is the second spot, and as you can see that was just a normal spotted bass. And although I've shortened this section of the video very slightly, I did all 3 of these I think in 12 minutes. So this is probably the easiest of the lot, not least because you've only got to get 3 of these, and you've got to get more of the others. So it's a good channel, this channel down the middle, and you can cast quite a long way straight ahead. So you can cast further than I am. As you can see, I'm only going 2/3 of the way up the scale on the casting distance. You can go a good 40-45 metres down that channel, and what you'll probably notice is I'm using lift and drop here. So rather than stop and go, I found with some experimentation that lift and drop seems to work best. Another point to note is I'm using the 14 gram on a 2/0 hook for this particular part of this mission, and that's because the bass are pretty aggressive big fish and they will take a 2/0 quite happily, and the weight of a 14 gram is just about right. So if you're working in Imperial, that's half an ounce, I think. Pretty sure that's right, it's half an ounce on a 2/0. And you have to use the rattlesnake worm on the jig for this first part. As you can see on the left, it tells you. So it's relatively easy to catch these historic fish if you're just fishing at any of these venues, but of course it's slightly more tricky to catch the specific fish that you want with the right lure. So as you can see, there's quite a lot of activity in that channel, and mostly you're going to find it's spotted bass and fairly big ones. Now this is the third area, and again most people I think will know this area as being good for spotted bass. So it's spotted bass. If you're at Lone Star, you're going to be standing on the bridge, either going one way or the other. My favourite, as I say, was the first position we saw, which is actually standing more towards the house side of the bridge and casting diagonally across. Then we've just dried up that main channel, and we'll return there in a minute. But this is just to show you that you can also get one in the body of the pond itself, in the main body of the pond, from this same spot. So again, we're using lift and drop, and lift and drop seemed to work really well for these historic spotted bass. So there we go, there's number 2 of the 3 needed. And actually it's quite nice, because although I did all of this, I think it must be 2 years ago now, on my Steam account, I really have forgotten most of it. So I've been doing this, as I said in yesterday's video, in a fairly exploratory manner and working it out, and I really don't remember at all using lift and drop for catching these spotties, these historic spotties. Last time round maybe I did, maybe I didn't, but it's good to work these things out again and try different options. So you can see generally from the power on the bars on the right hand side, that's either going to be a very big normal spotty or a historic one, and that is indeed the last of the historic spotted bass. So that's the rattlesnake worm on the 14 gram or ½ ounce jig head with a 2/0 hook. So we move on now to mudwater, where the goal is to catch 5 historic white crappie, and you can see where we're starting off. This is what a lot of people know as the bowfin spot. These weeds or reeds just directly ahead of us are where you tend to get the bowfin. It's one of the hot spots for the bowfin competition. And the one thing you probably will notice is the fact that we have to move to a firework tube. That's because the rules of the mission state that for the white crappie here. But also that I've dropped it down to a 1 hook, not even a 1/0, but a 1, and a 5 gram. So that's probably about this, well, certainly one of the smallest, if not the smallest, jig head there is. Don't know whether there's anything smaller than that, but it's very light and a size 1 hook. And as I say, you fit it with the firework tube. Now, if you're having problems getting these lures from the cannons and you need lots of cannonballs, I'll be talking about that a bit more later on when we get to Narin, because there's an absolute hotspot there for that. You can see that's the first of the historic white crappies coming out, and as with all of these fish, they're just sort of 1.5 times bigger than they would normally be, or a bit more maybe, and they usually fight pretty well. That was hooked quite late on. So I'm going to take you to a second spot for these, and for both the spotted bass in the first part of this video, I showed you 3 spots. Same for this one, the white crappie. I'm going to show you 3 spots that I found work really well for the white crappie. This is the second one. So as you can see, we walked down from the cannon and took the first turn on the left. There are 2 turns on the left. You want to take the first one, so don't go down beyond the tree that sticks out, or the 2 trees. And really, I suppose it's a bit of a cheat to say this is another position, because we're actually fishing the same water from the other direction. Yeah, this is a good spot for white crappie generally, and unfortunately it's a very good spot for quite a lot of other things as well, including the drum. Now the drum actually sits all the way along this this bank, and you may have seen from one of my other videos of a mission sometime last year I was fishing from the other side and letting the float run basically down right where we are at the moment, all the way down the bank. So this is where the freshwater drum tend to sit, but they are of course predatory fish. They will take lures, and they seem to like this firework lure, firework tube very much. So as you can see, I'm just mixing it up a bit and going a bit further out now. I caught, I think, a couple out further out into the river, so you can get them along the bank or further out. But just going back to the other species you get quite a lot of other fish, including the bass here. The bass will go for this tube, and I caught quite a lot of bass while I was doing this. But the very interesting thing is, during the whole time I was doing this, I didn't catch a single pickerel, and you'll see in a minute we'll move to the third spot, which is very definitely a pickerel spot, and even there I didn't pull out one pickerel in the entire time I was fishing. So the pickerel, for some reason, don't like this firework tube at all, which is quite interesting. I did pull out a bowfin, and I probably pulled out 6 or 7 drum and a lot of bass, but eventually got my white crappie probably in 20 minutes, half an hour real time. Not too bad really. I haven't shown all of the white crappie in this video, so this is the third spot, and this is actually the pickerel, what I would call the pickerel spot. So it's straight down between. Do be careful, because there is a third tree right in the middle there that you can snag on, but as you can see, managed to avoid that and actually caught a historic white crappie first cast on that run. So that's that run, and I think I caught a couple there. So just going back to the one behind, just to show you that you can actually catch one here as well. This is coming back up, so this is the second spot that I showed you, which is basically, as I say, it's the same area as you fish on the first spot, but just from the other direction, from behind the reeds. And it's a stop and go. I'm sure other things will work, but I found the stop and go here worked really well. And there we go, that knocks off the 5th and final white crappie, historic white crappie, here at Mudwater. So that's taking care of the first 2 parts of the mission, and this is the final one. Now we're at Ren River, and for this particular one you have to use the nymph, and as you can, the craw, the revolutionary craw, and you can see I'm fishing on the top right spot. And basically, if you have ever fished here before for crappie, you'll know that the one super hot spot for crappie is between these 2 trees in the water. Now you can fish from either side, so you could just fish from the point where you would normally spawn on the opposite bank, the more central point. And I know quite a few people that like to fish for crappie from that side, but generally most people I know who fish for crappie here would fish from this side. So we're on the far bank, on the sort of top side of the map, and I found here that a combination of the 2 worked really well. So stop and go some of the time, lift and drop some of the time, and you'll actually see on the final fish that I catch, I used a combination of the 2, and I found that worked really well, a combination of the 2 in the same cast, so starting with a lift and drop and changing to a stop and go halfway. So this is the revolutionary craw, and it's still on the small jig head, the 5 gram on a 1 hook, which is about the right size really for crappie. You will catch an awful lot of crappie here. Unfortunately, you'll catch an awful lot of bass as well. You can see that was a trophy black crappie. I probably caught, I would think, 6 or 7 or even 8 trophy black crappie, and I actually caught a personal best uni black crappie while doing this as well, and that was with the lift and drop. Immediately I started the lift and drop on one run, I picked up a PB for a uni black crappie. The other thing which I did mention earlier on is this seems to be the best spot I've come across so far for pulling out cannonballs. So if you're looking to combine getting the missions done with collecting cannonballs for that part of the mission, this is a brilliant place. Without any exaggeration, in probably real life 30-40 minutes fishing, I probably pulled out 10 cannonballs, and it's probably because you're doing a lot of the fishing. If you do it with the lift and drop, you're close to the bottom, and that seems to work really well for catching the historic black crappie, but it also dredges up a lot of cannonballs as well. So if you're trying to get that part of the mission done as well, because you need 50 cannonballs to get the salute. In other words, you need to fire off 50 cannons during the time, so you need 50 cannonballs to fire. Then this is a good place to be fishing. So again, as with the mission yesterday, I mentioned they tend to come in sort of 2s, certainly not really 3s, but 2, so you can go quite a long period. So this is from the point where I started. We've probably done, I don't know, 8 or 10 casts before we've got into one, but you will get into them, and then you'll tend to get into them, you know, maybe 2 or 3 together, certainly usually a couple together, and then forward it on a couple of hours. And I think I didn't show any of the ones in between, which is a bit of a shame because I did have that PB uni black crappie whilst doing this, but this is shifted on to the next day. But as you can see, it's only day 2 of 2, so, and it's 5:07 in the morning. So if you just shift on every, you know, in real life every 5 or 10 minutes, just move on a couple of hours in game, you'll soon get these fish. And you can see this one I started off with a lift and drop, and at this point I changed to stop and go during the actual run, and that seemed to work well. I caught several of the fish like that, and another big black crappies, so that seems to be a good method of working for these fish. So lift and drop to start, and then in the same run change to a stop and go on a 2-speed. So that's the revolutionary craw on the 5 gram on a 1, and that gives us the tag with the coordinates on, which of course you could use if you wanted to, but I can show you now where we go for the sunken canoe. So that just tells you pretty much the same information as on the first mission, but just relating to Naren. So the good news is when you've done these in order, or if you do these in order, Lone Star followed by Mudwater followed by this waterway Naren, then you're in the right place to do the end of the mission. And to do that you need to be, we can just see you need to cast near the sunken canoe and catch the relic chest. It's over here, the canoe, so you need to spawn where you just saw my orange marker was, and walk all the way along. So you're really walking up to the end of the Gar run. The Gar are on the left hand side as we look down along the weeds, and you can just see, because it's foggy, you can just see the silhouette of the end of the kayak sitting out of the water. So that's where it is. You can't see the other end of it like you could yesterday at Emerald. So you're looking to actually try and hit this canoe this time. You see immediately the first go, I got the first part of the mission knocked off. And as I said yesterday in the Emerald mission, the first one, is slightly weird because I don't remember this being quite the same last time round. I seem to remember it both happening in one go, and also that on all the missions you had to hit the canoe rather than hitting somewhere around. So basically, using the same gear that you were using for catching the fish, just try and hit spots on the left or right of the canoe, and sooner or later, within a few goes, you should get it. I do seem to remember again, first time round a couple of years ago, using float tackle to try and do this because it seemed to work better than the spinning gear. But there we go, you can see I've hooked it there, and we'll be dragging the relic chest across the waterway. And there we go. So that's the second mission, the second fish tag coordinates mission complete, and we get the second part of the sword, the shard of the sword. And as I said yesterday, at the end of this set of missions you put the shards all together and it makes a sword. So you can see tomorrow we'll be moving on to do some trout fishing at Rocky and Falcon, and yeah, look forward to seeing you then.